Riverside FM.
Welcome to Do Good Work Podcast, hosted by Terrell Strayhorn and Jaquan Johnson. We specialize in taking a deep dive into issues that truly matter. Each episode unpacks the challenges and opportunities facing today's leaders, from classrooms to boardrooms, offering insights that inspire real change. By redefining success, we're changing lives, empowering people everywhere to create environments where everyone feels a sense of belonging, whether at home, work, or school. So hey, sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we explore the issues shaping our futures, one meaningful conversation at a time. Let's go!
Hello to each and every one of you out there. Welcome to the Do Good Work Podcast, and want to make sure that each and every one of you are having a great weekend and a very happy new year. Things that are going on in the week, and certainly a good weekend. If you are listening to us on whichever platform, we ask that you will take the moment to like, share, double tap, and help us call into the show and into the listening audience anyone who's interested and wants to tune in. So help us, please, by liking and sharing. Feel free to tag folks, and I'm doing the same each and every week. Try to do this. I'm going to see if I can have a guy on my team that used to be really good at this, who may be able to help me get this done. But listen, like, share, tag, send it to your friends, drop it in the family group chat, do whatever you would like so that we can get folks here to listen in. All right, so I want to make sure that we go through. It's been a full week, a very busy week. There's lots going on, and so I certainly want to make sure that people know how to tune in. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I got the right links out here. This is why I'll make sure we do need your permission to backplay sounds. I don't know what that even means. Okay, so let me do it this way. I think if I copy this, but we want to make sure that you are able to join us and you're able to listen in and all of that. So feel free to like, share, tag for folks, give it to people. Thank you for those of you who are tuning in. We're going to get started in just a minute. And let me see here. If I do this, what does it do? Oh, here we go. Okay, got it. All right, and let me do one more thing. And all right, so it is January the 11th, and it's about 7 p.m. where I am. Again, if you were joining us, please like, double tap, share, tag folks, retweet, repost, and join us. So the first is that it's January 11th, and I certainly want to acknowledge that, it's been 11 days already of the new year, and It's probably hard to believe. I mean, it's hard for me to believe because it seems like the new year just started, but time truly waits for no one, and it's moving quite quickly. But it's been a full week. I don't know what you were doing today. Happy Saturday to you. Happy shout out. It is Kinsley, uh, seventh birthday. So happy birthday to little Kinsley, who is out there. But I also was watching the Texans game. We just played the Chargers. We won, which makes me very happy. Um, and it was a good game. We won 32-12, which means we continue. We live to see another day. And it's been a kind of rocky season, but shout out to the Houston Texans for that major win over the LA Chargers. Looking forward to the playoffs and all. But so busy week. This is for a lot of folks. Well, if you're in K-12 as an educator, for many of you, you started back to school this past week, right after the new year, for a lot of public schools, but a lot of colleges and universities don't kick up until this coming week. And so to all of the educators who are starting back for the spring semester, love, light, and energy to you. To all of the students who are starting back, all of the best wishes and academic and social success to you. And then to those who are, whether, you're braving the wintry conditions of the East Coast and the Northeast, or you are braving the all-consuming fires of the West Coast over in LA. We're sending our love and light and positive energies out to you, certainly for your well-being, safety. And the other is that, so, we've passed a couple of things since we're now rolling into January the 11th. January the 10th, if you didn't know, was, what do they call it? National Quitters Day or something like this, where many people who set strong New Year's resolutions usually don't make it until the 10th. And so if you have set some goals and you're really tracking and building plans and strategies and tactics for achieving them, then shout out to you. You're over that first hump, but it's also not ever too late to start anew. And to figure out what you want to do with those. So to everyone who's out there, thank you. Thank you for those who are joining. Thank you for those who are liking, sharing, tagging, reposting, bringing folks in across the various platforms. We are live across Spotify, X, LinkedIn, YouTube. I think that's all. I'm trying to figure out how to get TikTok in here, especially since I don't know. That's the other thing. I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, and then talk about some other things before we close out the show. But we also had in this week, it was, although schools don't really kick off until next week, the preparation for students really picks up this week. And preparation for people, I think, is a really important part of the belonging pie. And I write about this in the books and articles on sense of belonging, that one way that people feel a sense of belonging. So sense of belonging is a feeling. It's a feeling that someone has been, their needs will be met by their commitment to being with other people. It's a feeling that, they're cared about, they're nurtured, they're supported, that they're safe and secure, that they're around people who, who want the best for them and are excited about their successes, but also frustrated by their failures, what we call ego extension, right? So that's what sense of belonging is. People feel that when, you know their name, when you provide constructive feedback that is tailored to their own work, their own aspirations, that honors their ideas, even if you're offering feedback that's constructive and giving them, modifications and changes and enhancements to those ideas. I was one time working with a student who said something to me, or gave me something to read. And when I gave them my feedback, the first thing I said was something like, I really like your ideas. And they paused and they said, really? Wow, that means a lot to me. And the words and those phrases of just his opening sentences reflect the feelings that are embedded within belonging. That is, people feel good, they feel cared about. Now, I went on to offer feedback, constructive feedback, things that he needed to change, things that he needed to rework. There was a lot of change and improvements to the work, but merely stating that I liked his ideas and that his ideas have worth and value were, you know, sort of inspired him, boosted his confidence, made him feel like the conversation we were about to have, which was filled with feedback and recommendations and edits, but he could hear it and he could receive it because it was undergirded by a sense of respect and honor for his ideas. People want to know that you hear them and that you care about them and their ideas. So, you think about it, there are so much that can be done and that we're doing. So people feel that sense of belonging when they are in spaces and places where people, first of all, respect them and honor them and communicate that orally, like you can say things or you can do things. One other way that we can communicate to people that we care about them, they are significant and important to us, they matter to us, and that we want the best for them, is through our preparation, right? So, you imagine when you have your friends come over to your house. It's one thing for friends to come over and the place is not cleaned up and the trash is overrun and the clothes are on the floor. And that's not to shame anybody, but that's a different experience than when a friend comes over and the place is clean and the music is running and you've got their favorite snacks and drinks and they say, "Oh my gosh, I love Sprite." And you say, "Well, yeah, I know that. I went to the store earlier to grab some for you." Right? So the preparation for their arrival communicates care, concern, investment, love, and those are the core ingredients of belonging. So, in this week and a half that most schools and college universities are preparing for the arrival of students, there's a lot that we're doing that is part of our belonging apparatus. It'd be, colleges and universities may not think about it, schools and campuses and institutes may not think about it, but this is part of the retention plan. This is part of the student success plan that we are taking time to upskill. I think next week I'm doing a training for a campus with their faculty and staff. So that training that happens before students come back is part of the preparation, getting them prepared to work with all students. In that particular case, working with students who are living with diverse and different kinds of disabilities. Some teachers take this time to really refresh their bulletin boards or to, work with the facility staff to make sure that the classroom is well stocked with paper towels and tissues and it's clean and it's safe for the students to come in. Whether you're talking about kindergarten or 12th grade, this is the time where people are also investing in taking time to refresh, updo, or upgrade their lesson plans, thinking about what they will cover over this semester. And so all of this preparation, whether it's working directly with personnel, teachers, staff, educators, faculty, it's, working on the environmental conditions or the climate in the classroom or across the campus, whether it is getting things ready for that first day when they come back. Maybe you're having some sort of festivity. Lots of schools have pep rallies or other kinds of social gatherings. All of that is part of the belonging formula. So people feel a sense of belonging when they feel like we've prepared for them. And that doesn't apply in education. The same is true in the workplace. That, I've worked places, I remember, and I love this place, so I love talking about it. One job that I had, I remember arriving on the first day and, landed, went to the institution, made my way to campus, looked for my office, and I remember thinking, I don't know where my office is. I don't know where I'm supposed to go on the first day. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do the first day. Do you have to go by parking services or do I go to HR? Do I stop by my supervisor's office? This was not well spelled out for me. So at some point I bump into someone who worked at the institution who said, "Hey, I think you're the new, person here. Are you looking for your office? I said, yes. So they took me to my office. It was there that I kind of got really ready for the day. And they said, oh, let me come introduce you to your assistant. So they walked me down the hall and introduced me to my assistant. And I hang on to that experience because, I loved the job and had great experiences there and a lot of good success with my team. But it was one of those moments that really also taught me the importance of preparation and onboarding. And onboarding is not just the job of those who work in HR and talent management, although of course it is. It's the job of all of us who count ourselves as leaders, supervisors, managers, team leaders, to really think about what's the onboarding for people to their role. And to their job, like where are they going to work? What's their location? And there's a preparation in that, because I remember being at one of my centers when we hired someone new. Working with I think it was a special assistant at the time, to go out and make sure we purchased, I don't remember exactly what we purchased, but for the sake of the story, I don't know, snacks, welcome treats, some swag, that was properly logoed for the institution where the center was located. Maybe I think we got a card and had everyone on the team sign it to welcome them to the team. And we decorated their office and their desk that first day. People always ask me, so how do you foster workplace belonging? That's the beginning of it. It starts before day one. It starts when the person is being interviewed. It starts when you're reaching out to the person to schedule that interview. It starts when they get the job offer and the communication about that offer. And then certainly the day that they first arrive, all the way through, their last day working there. You're trying to build a constellation of experiences that communicate or signal to them they're important, they matter. It's not like every single day you got to put a card on their desk, or every single day there has to be Skittles on the desk. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are moments where there should be things like that. And that, of course, that's then matched with, respectful, honest work that gives them a sense of dignity and pride, constructive and fair evaluations that also help them know that they can be successful there, an appropriate, balance of support and professional development that gives them spaces to stretch and grow and upskill and learn, and, appropriate dynamics for collaboration and camaraderie with team members. All of that packaged together becomes what you need for workplace belonging. So, I think that's the preparation that's happening. So to everyone who's doing that, if you have not been thinking about it that way, I hope you will think about how you're really working this week and next to help students feel that sense of mattering, and mattering to others, mattering to the institution. It does make a difference. It shows up in my research as being really important. And so I just want to make sure that we don't, leave it to, oh, well, it's just the things that seem to matter. It's just the the grants that we give students to be successful. That's part of it, of course. But it's also, or it's in the pep rallies, and it's in the welcome back concerts. Again, that's certainly part of it, but we continue to build those experiences where people feel a sense of belonging and mattering when we make time and prepare for them. Last anecdote, and I'll move on. I was in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, about to give a talk at I think it was a regional kind of conference. And as I was standing by the table, the registration table, waiting for people to, or for the event to kick off or get started, student walked over to the registration table. Someone said, hey, we have a name tag for you. And she grabbed her name tag and said, turning to one of her friends, oh my gosh, they have a name tag for me. I feel so special. And her name I can't remember now, but at the time she said, and they spell my name right. So most people, and it was one of those sticky paper name tags. So of course, most people don't fall out over simple name tags. It's not the name tag that really mattered most to her. If you listen to her words, it's the presence and the preparation that she imagined, she could see, she could feel, she could respect, right? They have a name tag for me. That means someone expected me to be here, and took care to, you know, spell my name the correct way. So these relatively small and minor elements of our preparation, our teaching, our advising, our coaching, our training, our parenting might seem insignificant, but they're actually quite important because people make meaning of them. Um, you know, students listen to the way that we provide our feedback when it's, sort of tucked in this um, spirit of care, concern, and desire for them to grow and to achieve their own dreams. They really do honor that. All right. So that's the period of time we're in. By the time we have our episode next week, we'll be well into the start of the spring semester across most sectors. We'll talk about that. And then it's also this time where you're probably keeping up with a lot of the news. And I know some folks have asked about this. So one is the whole TikTok thing. I mean, I am on TikTok. The podcast is not powered on TikTok. One, because in order to stream on TikTok, you've got to have at least 1,000 followers. So anybody who is listening to the podcast, all of our listeners over the episodes, please go to TikTok and find us. I will be sure to share it out after this episode. But so you got to have enough followers. And I think there's some things I can do to accelerate that by going live. So that's one. Two is there's right now this pending, sort of situation with TikTok. TikTok is not owned by a country. I mean, it is. Well, I don't know what that was about to say, but it's not owned by a company. In the U.S., it's owned by a company overseas, and there are all sorts of beliefs and some evidence and some challenges to that evidence. I'm not here to tell you what to think about that, but there is worry and intelligence that perhaps TikTok is misused to access, and access information about the nation that threatens our security and the like. And so for that reason, there's a, ask, or, and it's a legal case actually, for that to be sold, the company to be sold. And if it's not sold to a company that allows us to have more control, more protections, and to be able to, monitor what it is doing with TikTok, then TikTok would be sort of banned in the US. And this is one of the few times that, the federal government would then intervene to cut off Americans' access to a platform based on, worries around national security. It is not the only time. There are lots of people out there who are saying it's the only time, but all you have to do is go back in history. Social media is new. So no, during World War I and II, there were not, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have LinkedIn, we didn't have Twitter, and now X, but we've always been concerned about, as technology advanced, whether it's the television, whether it's the radio, we've always been concerned about those channels being used to infiltrate national security, to compromise national security, to infiltrate our systems and the like. And so anyway, the point is there's this situation on the table now. Supreme Court's listening to it to see whether or not the company will be sold to a place and that offers that kind of control and protections that would make us comfortable with it as a nation. If not, then it would be banned. And the deadline for that is coming up January 19th. So it's like in 8 days. So a lot of the folks who are on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, this, have been talking about, excuse me, so where do you go next? next? If TikTok is banned or it's closed, then where do you go? And so before I put more time into trying to figuring out, how to get up to 1,000 followers and put the podcast also on TikTok, I'm going to see if I can find out what TikTok's future is. But I'd be curious to know, what are your questions and your thoughts. So feel free, whether you're on any of the platforms. Again, thank you for liking, sharing, reposting. Feel free to use your chats and ask questions or drop a comment. It comes to me live here in the studio, and I will certainly respond to it. So, but I think that's going to be interesting to see. There are a lot of people on TikTok, and I think the most recent statistic I saw is something like half of the nation, 47% or so, uses TikTok. Now, our use of TikTok is variable. Some people are on it just to laugh and play. Some people get on it once a week to see something. Some people are on it every day. I mean, I've have some people who I follow who literally, it is their job. They get up, they go live, they, cut off that show, they come back later. There are people up there who are selling products and devices. So it has become its own sort of virtual world. And I think it is pretty interesting. I mean, I've seen some of the most incredible artists. Yesterday, a woman who was singing, sitting in her living room on the floor, no piano. I think she was playing the music on her smart device, her cell phone, but she had her little baby in her lap with his bonnet, and she had a bonnet on, and she just singing, and it was the most beautiful singing you've ever heard. It's like she should definitely be on someone's label. And she was taking requests from people about singing. And so I'm more interested in it. Well, I'm interested in a lot of fronts, certainly for the powering of outreach to audiences around the work of the science of belonging and the work I do, but also because of the community that people build there. I mean, people literally go back to certain TikTok lives, and they know each other, and you can see this. They'll call each other by name. They'll, something might happen in the chat, and they'll say, "Wait a minute, I'm going to face time you." So they clearly have exchanged information. Although they have probably never met in person, they connect meaningfully, share ideas and comments all across these platforms. So, there's a community that's built there. There's camaraderie that's built there. There's certainly conflict. I mean, there's one I listened to the other day where this guy is a sort of music critique, I guess, or an art critique or something. He has people come up. So he'll have, I don't know, 6 different boxes he'll invite. So you come into his live, he'll invite you up to the stage, so to speak, which means you could turn your camera on. In his show, you must turn your camera on, and then turn your mic on, and you can sing. And he'll let you sing a couple of bars, and then he'll give you feedback. If it's good, he'll celebrate you and tell you what to do and what is possible. If it is less than good, he'll invite you to these workshops and sort of trainings that he offers at designated times during the week. And so you think about it from his perspective, he's going live, but he's building content, but he's also building his audience for these other sort of episodes right later in the week. I'm fascinated in that. And then my last observation I'm really fascinated about is, especially for today's sort of student, and I'm not even just thinking college students, I'm thinking about how many high school students and younger are on TikTok and use social media, but like you learn how to use technology so well and so easily through these platforms. I mean, like in a single TikTok live, there's a chat going on. You're asking people to double tap the screen. You're trying to drive up your likes. You're also receiving gifts from people. That's financial contributions. You have your Cash App where you can also receive financial contributions. So before you know it, you're looking at a person who is on TikTok. I'm doing air quotes. You can't see it, but they're also an entrepreneur. They're running a business. And what's really interesting is because it gets, some of these can have 1,000 people or more, maybe even more in them. It's a lot. You can't keep up with the chat while trying to, run your show. And so they have these moderators, or mods, as they call them. And so you start designating people as moderators, or people might self-designate. So you have a person who's going live, who's running a show or selling product, who's encouraging engagement, but also assisted through moderators that they oversee, that is a pretty complex business. So think about the business skills that people are picking up and learning in the same way. I don't know that people are thinking about it that way. I certainly hope that business schools start to think about it. Because it seems to be the way of the future, the way of today, tomorrow. I don't think it'll change overnight, but I do think students are really, really excited about these kinds of development. So we'll see. Again, by the time we have our next episode, we should be right up about the time of that decision from the Supreme Court. So for those who are in support, let's hope the best. For those who are not, I understand we have difference of opinions, and we should honor those, and we should figure out a way. I think we probably could all agree that no matter what we're using on any platform, it ought to be safe and secure and keep our people safe as well as our nation safe. And so we want to make sure we do that. All right. And then lastly, as we think about students coming back, quite often people ask questions around like, so, what do I do to sort of get started? How do I get motivated? Winter break is a challenge for all of us, not just as students, although that's quite often what people think about, even for educators, because, you hit a momentum at some point in the fall semester where you're used to what you're doing. In my case, I was teaching on Mondays and Wednesdays, and, doing some training on Thursdays. And so I knew what my week sort of cadence was. And I knew that I could put most meetings on Tuesday because I was not doing teaching or training or coaching. And of course, you do that for a while and you push yourself and, you're feeling good. And then you have days where you're feeling like you're running low on energy, but ultimately you make it, right? And then you get to the end of the semester. Well, I won't even go there. As you see the last couple of weeks of the semester, you start thinking, okay, I'm right here. I'm about to be done. And just hang on. You can do it. And you make it. And it's like, woohoo. And now it's time for a break. And everybody loves, these breaks that are more than a day because it gives you time to rest, to recharge, to refuel, to get ready for the next round, right? And so here we are. We've gone through the winter holiday. We've celebrated New Year's. And now people are trying to get ready to go back. And some of the students I was meeting with in a huddle this past week talked about the fact that, how do you get yourself convinced and motivated to go back in? And it made me think about, two things as we wrap up. One is, I've never boxed. I have a black belt in karate or taekwondo, did some sports, but not all sports. And boxing was not one of them. But I've watched a lot of movies and documentaries and things about boxing. And something that stands out, I don't know to whom to attribute it, but is this idea that, you go into the boxing ring and expecting to win. Like no one typically gets into the boxing ring expecting to just sort of get through the first half of the first round, right? No one says, "Oh, put me up for the fight, just so I can get through the first round. As long as I get through the first round, I'm good." I'm not saying that never happens, and maybe it depends on who you're up against, your opponent. But generally people get into the ring in hopes of getting through. Now, maybe knocking the opponent out in the first round, yes, but ultimately in it to win, in it to achieve whatever their goal is for the fight. The same is true for runners who enter the race. Most don't say, "Oh, let me get around the first track," or "Let me just get over the first hurdle. I can fall over all the rest of them." No, you're motivated to get into the race because you want to win, and you even want to place first. You don't even, most runners don't want second or third. Now, second or third is better than nothing, but the motivation for doing it is long term, not short term. Understanding you don't get to the long term until you move through the short term. And I think we need more lessons about this. So to all of the teachers, educators, coaches, pastors, mentors, parents, aunties, uncles, let's try to take time to tell stories, um, you know, give lectures, conversations, assign reading or watch movies that help people, all of us, not just young people, everyone, remember that, you don't get to the final um, finish line if you throw in the towel at the very beginning, or if you give up after the first hurdle. That's a good metaphor, hurdle, right? Or if you quit after the first time you fall. No, you get back up and you keep going. And so, part of the psychology of winning in boxing is not just getting in the ring, it's getting back into the center of the ring each and every round. You've got to keep your eye focused on the prize, keep your eye focused on the goal. So, to do that, my advice to the students this week were, what's your goal? What's your dream? What's your aspiration? What are you in school for? Are you trying to get a degree? Are you trying to get a job? What's the job you want? How much money are you going to make in that job? Where do you want that job to be? Are you thinking about staying here? Are you thinking about going afar? Do you want to run your own clinic in your own, office, or do you want to work in someone else's? Either one is respectable work. What kind of vacations do you want to be able to have when you grow up? Okay, how much you think those vacations cost? I mean, it is not too soon or too much to start asking these questions. Now, they may not have all the answers for it. The cool thing about it is they do have the answers for it. All you got to do, listen, have the conversations, ask them, nudge them, put it on a Post-it, put it on their bedside, over dinner or lunch. Ask them, hey, what are you working on? What are you building? Where are you going? What do you want to do? What kind of vacations you want to take? How much do you think it costs to own a yacht? How much do you think it costs to go to Mexico? You don't know. Okay, well, by tomorrow's dinner, I want you to have an answer for me, because they can go to ChatGPT, not my first choice, but they can go to Siri, they can go to Alexa, they can go to Google, they can go online, they can go on their phones. There are so many sources available to them. They don't have to go to the library. They don't have to check out an encyclopedia. They literally can get it done within seconds, and they know this. So put the work on them. Go find out, and let's talk about it tomorrow over lunch. Let's talk about it tomorrow when we eat breakfast. Let's talk about it tomorrow over dinner. And then when they start thinking, okay, so you want to go to college? What kind of college you want to go to? You haven't thought about it. Okay, so think about it, and maybe by the weekend, let's talk about it. Maybe we can go to a local college. Or you think about a 2-year community college or a 4-year school. What do you think about majoring in? You're not really sure. All right, so go looking. I want to hear some ideas, because I think what we often do is we start filling in the blanks for them. And the students who I found struggle the most in college in my own classes are students who came to college because someone told them to go. They're majoring in a subject because someone told them to major in it. They're taking courses because someone, like their advisor or their parents, told them to take it. And then they get into class, and this is an interesting thing. They get into class and they say, well, I don't like this class, and I don't want to do this anyway. My parents told me to. So they start to blame us anyway, right? And resent us for these decisions that we were trying to be helpful and well-intentioned about, but we really should put the responsibility and the onus on them. And you don't have to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm overburdening them with all these duties. No. Nowadays, they're able to do it quite easily, especially because of technology being available. Now, what you might do, if you want to join them in this, I think that is a good thing for it to be a family kind of thing, or a youth group kind of activity, or something where they have a coach, or, as I would say, a navigator on the side, is you can do some searching and say, hey, I found 2 or 3 websites. Here they are. Why don't you search through them and see either what kind of thing you want to major in, or what kind of school you want to attend. For those a couple of the students I spoke with are contemplating major changes, and they're really worried about talking to their parents about this. So let me just go ahead and say, parents, it is, typical that some students might get into college and change their major. And I get that sometimes this means that they're no longer pursuing the field that you desired for them. But having them in the classroom and working with them as an administrator on college campuses, let me tell you, you're probably better off in the long run, because there's, greater investment of their own time and energy and interest when it is a subject that they want to study. That doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation. That doesn't mean you can't have input. That doesn't mean that they can't consider other kinds of options. But I think if you want them to go to medical school, they don't want to go to medical school, they want to go major in dance, maybe we could think about the connections between dance and medicine. It is a therapy. Music is a therapy. And I don't even know if students know that. So maybe there are ways to compromise on this, but to believe that, oh my goodness, if you don't go to medical school, you won't make it. Everyone won't go to medical school. Everyone won't go to law school. Everyone's not going to get a doctorate. And that's not to say they can't. Everyone won't. And that's okay. You want your student to pick a major, especially at the undergraduate level, that aligns with their interests, that they're going to be motivated to study, do well, attend class, invest their time and energy, think beyond the box, do good on their assignments. And then they may specialize at the graduate level. But do not worry. Your student would not be the only person who changed their major if they did that. All right. So with that sake of time, I could go on and on and on, but I won't, because gotta save some for next week. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Always a good time to talk with you about these important issues. Do us a favor, follow us on @DoGoodWork on all things social media. Feel free to continue to writing. You can hit me up on my DM in Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. And until next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Do Good Work Podcast. We hope you found today's conversation informative, uplifting, and insightful. Don't forget to like and share this episode with your networks. Follow us on social media @DoGoodWork on X, formerly Twitter, for real-time updates, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more. Until next time, friends, don't be afraid to do something, but do something good. Do good work.